Everyone loves a casual Knightcore look, and bonus points if it's a comfy, cozy piece of apparel. But that can be hard to find, especially if you still want the piece to be understated yet impactful as a fashion item. However, a company called AngleType has absolutely locked it down with their everyday armor tee. As a lover of black t-shirts with Lord of the Rings adjacent graphics, and pretty much anything Knightcore, I knew I had to get this into my collection. And while I love this t-shirt as it is, upon seeing it, I was immediately left wondering if I could make something similar but with a more feminine silhouette. Not necessarily by changing the basic shape of the t-shirt, but more in the seam lines and the extra patches. Yeah, I'm basically turning the concept of bikini t-shirts into Knightcore. Now I'm coming into this with very little planning, so if it doesn't work out, I'll just buy one of the original shirts and we'll laugh about it later. I do have a couple of these shirts, which seem to be pretty similar in their color and their weight. So I figured I'd start here and just see where we can go with it. Welcome to day 2 of working on this everyday armor t-shirt. I have finished marking up and figuring out the design I want. I think what ended up making the most sense for me was taking a t-shirt pattern that I got off of Mood and just marking where I thought having some cool seam lines would be. And I think I did a pretty good job, definitely a lot of futzing. So assuming I can follow my own logic here, the next move is to just cut all of these pieces out, add seam allowance, and then see if I can then construct the t-shirt. I think I have enough toile material that I can properly mock this up first, which I would love to do before I dive into the t-shirt material. If nothing else, I definitely have enough to work out this essentially patchworking technique and make sure that the science makes sense. So let's see how that goes. Okay, the proof of concept is there. I have proof that this will work. It does line up nicely with the pattern piece, so I feel like I'm getting that right. My problem at this point is, as you can see, I am doing a garbage job of lining up my seams. So I really need to figure out how to maybe convey that in the pattern, give myself little notches or something. Not only am I proving to myself that this patchwork concept will work, I'm also proving the importance of adding notches to your patterns. So I don't really want to mock anything else up since I've kind of proven the concept to myself. However, I have 24 pattern pieces that I need to trace and then add seam allowance to, and now add notches to as well. And it is already taking forever. So that's probably how I'm gonna round out today. This was meant to be like easy make, easy wear project, and it's turning out to be quite the puzzle. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna lock and load and just work on pattern pieces for the rest of the day, and I will see you tomorrow when I have more to share. I lied. Over here on the East Coast, we've been going through a little bit of a heat wave, and I've been absolutely crashing out with not only the discomfort of the temperature of this room, which is probably in the mid-80s, but also just the state of the world. The whimsy I am seeking through projects like this, the metaphor of donning armor in an everyday sort of way, there's something there, and I hope you feel this way too. Call your representatives, make your voice heard, and then we can get back to business here. So over the last few days, coming in and out of my studio to take breaks and find air conditioning and then come back and work on this, I have been able to make all of my pattern pieces, and I have also started the process of cutting some out, but that's where we're picking back up now. I originally thought I'd be using these t-shirts to kind of patchwork on top of them, but I've adjusted my strategy to just be sourcing them for the fabric. It's definitely not my most eco-friendly choice or economical choice, but I have the t-shirts. I'm gonna go ahead and just source them for the fabric, and we'll build a new t-shirt off of that. I did spend a little bit of time like properly seam ripping pieces of this, specifically to get the neck band so that I can repurpose that when I go to make my own t-shirt. But at this point, I need to save time where I can, so I'm just cutting along the seams and trying to preserve as much of the fabric as I can. I'm definitely worried about navigating some of the corners and round curvy seams that I'm going to need to create here. I already know that that's going to take a couple tries, but with the notches I'll at least have everything lined up, so I'm feeling a little bit more confident about that. And having put a few hours into this already, I'm excited to actually start constructing something and putting something together. So let me stop procrastinating and turn my fan and AC back on and get to work. Okay, this is going to require a great deal of heat and steam for every single one of these seams. I messed up. I gotta remember to hydrate. Well, that took forever. As expected, trying to get a flat piece of fabric out of all of these curved and also at the same time like pointy seams, it's been days. With the front and the back pieces put together, the sleeves cut out, the collar pre-made by harvesting from this t-shirt, and just a couple quick patches to sew together, I should be done with all of the prep work. We're finally ready to construct the t-shirt. Okay, so we're finally at the point where we can construct the t-shirt. This part should be pretty easy because we're just following the instructions from Mood on their Brando t-shirt pattern. So I'm going to start by
taking the front and the back, same sides together, and sewing along the shoulder seams. Now, the instructions say to use an overlock stitch or a stretch stitch and a regular seam stitch. So I assume I'm just going to sew the seam using my sewing machine per the usual. And I do have jersey ballpoint needles for that stitch. So I'll use that and then I'll take it to my overlocker. And I did turn off my little fabric slicer thing that cuts the fabric while you're running it through the overlocker. Which actually, let me show you how I did it. Okay, so here is the front of my overlocker. Please ignore how dusty it is. So as you can see, the blade is not currently present, but on this machine, just flipping up this little tab here that's on a hinge and then pulling it out and turning is how I re-engage my knife. And then it's the same process to disengage. Of course, now that I'm thinking about it, I really don't know that this is super important for this project, but now I don't have to worry about if I mess anything up having cut any excess fabric off. So I'm gonna leave it like this for now. Oh, but I do have to swap out the thread. It's definitely one of those days where I have to be saying every step of this process out loud. Otherwise, I simply cannot focus. I think we're onto something here. Probably would have been worth my time to mock up the t-shirt, make sure it fit before I spent all this time patchworking the material, but we're okay. It's definitely gonna fit. It fits nicely around my hips too, which tends to be an issue I run into with t-shirts. I will say the temptation to just leave this as a muscle tee is there, but I am still really excited to see what the pauldron pieces that are meant to go on the shoulder and the sleeve kind of add to this piece. So I'm going to carry on. So let's get to work on adding the sleeves and then figure out how to attach those pauldron pieces. All right, we are approaching the finish line on this t-shirt. I am about to unlock a brand new skill. I am going to finish my sleeves and the hem of the t-shirt with my overlocker. When you typically go to finish like a hem of a dress or something like that, you would take your unfinished edge, fold it down, and then fold it down again and sew over that to kind of enclose that unfinished edge, right? But that would make the garment a little bulky and just, it's not what a normal t-shirt would look like based off what you might buy in a store. So instead, we're gonna take that fold and fold it back the other way so that we have a little bit of an accordion thing going on. Hopefully you can see the difference there in how that's folded. It is a little dark. Shouldn't have done this with a dark t-shirt. Anyway, so I have this fold. I have the first fold and then folded back the other direction. And I'm going to take that, putting the unfinished edge on the bottom. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but I'm putting the unfinished edge on the bottom and sliding that under my presser foot of my overlocker. Now, to actually have this set up on the machine, I did remove my right needle and I reduced the tension of my left needle down to 0. So now that I have everything in place, I just run the overlocker. Here's the edge that I overlocked. It looks pretty much like a normal overlock stitch on the top side where I stitched, but on the bottom, it looks like more of a zigzag stitch, which is interesting. But now, here's where the magic comes in. When I unfold this edge, you'll see stitches start to emerge, and voila, you get the same finish that you would get on a t-shirt in a store, and it still has the stretch to it, which is important for a stretchy material like this. Man, I just think that's really cool. I need like an Xbox achievement right now. New skill unlocked.
This t-shirt is so comfortable and delightful and easy to wear that I decided to wear it while I traveled to this 10th century medieval Spanish castle, just for the reveal. I'm here shooting a short film, which I will be vlogging about in a future video, and the film, of course, will be released in December, so stay tuned for all of that. But back to the shirt. I realized I like to travel in bike shorts and an oversized t-shirt, so it kind of feels like overkill. That's why I made this shirt. I wanted something to wear when I was feeling a large t-shirt and bike shorts, something that still felt me, still had some of that Knightcore armor aesthetic to it. I feel like these reveals are usually some big ornate costume or ball gown or something shiny and new, whereas this t-shirt isn't. So I feel weird trying to show it off because it really is just a t-shirt, but you get closer and you realize that in those seam lines is some feminine armor. Now, do I think I crushed this? No. I don't know that I nailed it. The concept is here. I think maybe the design is a little off, or there are small things that I could do to emphasize the design a little bit. From a technical perspective, from like the patchworking perspective that is, I think I did a pretty good job, aside from right smack dab in the middle of my chest where a bunch of pieces meet, and I just had so much trouble trying to get that to lie perfectly flat. So there is like a little bit of a point situation here. It's not horrible, but it's enough that I notice. And that kind of brings me to the second issue that I have here. It's really subtle. It's arguably too subtle. I'm here with a bunch of fantasy nerds, and I don't think anybody noticed that this t-shirt is meant to look like armor. I got a lot more comments on my shoes, and that's all right. You know, this can be a shirt that's just for me and anybody I was sitting next to on the plane or the train or any of the other modes of transportation I used to get here. At the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with the t-shirt overall. It is really comfortable, and I like an oversized t-shirt, so I'm definitely going to continue wearing this, even with my little point. I do really like the shape of the t-shirt. It's maybe just a little boxier than what I would normally go for in a t-shirt, but I think if I did size this down to the medium size, then it would be perfect. I also think I could have been a touch more strategic in the direction with which I laid my flat fell seam. I think that could help amplify the shape a little bit better. I did try coming back through and adding extra stitches right at the seam lines in order to, again, emphasize the different shapes within this pattern. And I don't know if maybe using different thread or, like I said, the direction of the seam would be the most impactful, but there's some stuff to play around with here. I think my favorite part is the shoulder pauldrons. I wish I had actually gone through and finished the original design, which had a piece on the actual shoulder and not just the sleeve. So if I do go to make this again, I think that's something that I would definitely prioritize. I also think I could have played around a little bit more with the bottom shape. I think that the shape of the bottom of the original t-shirt is what really drives home the armor look. Either way, I'm really happy with this. It's definitely something that I'm going to continue to wear. I got to try out some new sewing techniques and practice some other ones that I haven't touched in a while. So this has been a really great project, and I've had a lot of fun kind of coming up with the whole concept and then seeing it all the way through. And if you had as much fun as I did, it would mean the world to me if you would like and subscribe. And if you do, I'll see you in 2 weeks for my next video. Take care.